We are in a war with selfish, foolish, and narcissistic rich people. Why is it a shock when things turn violent? Hashtag hunt Republican congressman. After many people objected, Devine did not back down. He followed up by tweeting this: I'm sorry if my hunt Republican congressman hashtag hurt the feelings of any GOP snowflakes, but you have not engaged in civil discourse, end quote. We invited Jim Devine to come on the show, and remarkably, he agreed. He's brave, at least. Jim Devine joins us tonight. So, Jim Devine, under what circumstances is it morally acceptable to use violence for political ends?
It's never acceptable to use violence for political ends, except perhaps in the most extreme cases. I'd refer you to George Washington and those guys. The fact of the matter is we do with ballots in this country what they do with bullets elsewhere. And it is not uncommon in politics that we use the language of war. We talk about fierce rhetoric. We talk about crusades and so on. You were on a television program, and I don't know what your body count was, when you were on Crossfire. I assume that there were no real casualties there. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
I mean, wait, stop. Don't, you know what? I want to have a reasonable conversation. I don't want to demagogue this. But in the hours after 5 people were shot, including the House Majority Whip, you sent out a tweet that said, hunt Republicans. I mean, it was clearly a reference to the assassination attempt against Congressman Scalise. It's hard to imagine how you could justify writing something like that.
In the immediate aftermath of the shooting at the Sandy Hook school, we've heard people say this is not the time to talk about gun violence. We've heard lots of things follow this. You know, this is a.
No, but that's not what you were saying. You were encouraging gun violence. Wait, hold on.
Absolutely
not. You were encouraging gun violence.
Absolutely not. I never encouraged gun violence, and I stated on my tweet
what did you mean by that?
I don't
put down that
condone or
paper. I'm talking about you, not some other paper. I mean, please.
But this is what's been out there.
This has been I'm not interested in what other people.
We see stuff like this, and this is not an uncommon
That's great,
thing.
but we're not.
We saw.
So your excuse apparently is other people have done it. That's not an excuse.
It's not an
I'm here
excuse.
to ask you about something that you wrote, and why don't you explain it? Why did you write hunt Republicans?
Is that for too long, Republicans in this country have failed to distinguish the differences between politics and war. And a lot of Democrats have failed to see the similarities. So you guys either have to tone down the rhetoric or we have to step up. And I don't think there's anything.
I don't think there's
hunt Republicans.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Sarah Palin put the crosshairs on Congress. I'm just saying hunt Republicans instead of Democrats.
First of all, Sarah Palin didn't do that. A group affiliated with her did. And it's a difference between a metaphor and actually suggesting affirmatively go hunt Republicans after Republicans have just been shot.
She put up a boast about her Republican bullseyes.
What point are you making? That that's okay?
What I'm making the point is that after year after year after year of hearing the same kind of violent rhetoric from the right, the left has every reason to come forward and stand up. What I've learned in life is that when you're confronted with bullies, you have to fight fire with fire. You have to stand up to them.
But a guy just went and tried to assassinate Republican members of Congress.
And that was a terrible.
It just happened.
It was a terrible thing.
No, but
and one of my tweets, Tucker, said, "It's too bad nobody did something before." And of course, Congressman Scalise was the guy that received
tweet, and of course was overshadowed by your
all
suggestion.
But 15 other members of the House.
Do you own a gun?
No.
Do you own a gun?
No, I said no.
Do you think that you should be able to pass a background check for a gun after tweeting something like that?
I don't see that this would disqualify me from passing a background check. But I would be happy to
someone, as a gun control advocate, I'm asking you
a background check if I wanted to buy a gun.
No, but do you think you should be allowed, or anyone? Hold on, let me finish my question. Do you think someone who tweets the day after an attempted murder like this, hunt Republicans, basically cheering it on, that person, in this case you, ought to be allowed to have a firearm in this country?
Well, first of all, your interpretation that I'm cheering it on is not accurate. I specifically said that I don't condone or advocate violence. That was within seconds, and in another tweet that said hunt Republicans. This is a metaphorical use of the term.
I do condone violence.
It is,
but if you could just answer my question, do you think someone who tweets something like that?
Metaphorical term. I've recently heard a prominent Republican say, I don't have time for political correctness. And I'll tell you what, I will make the time for political correctness when we have Republicans that aren't talking over us.
But if we could just get back, if you could just answer my question really quick and then we move on to the next one. Do you think that someone who tweets a line such as hunt Republicans or hunt Democrats ought to be allowed to have a gun as a gun control advocate? That's my question to you. It's really simple. What's the answer?
Absolutely. I don't think that that would in and of itself define them as a person who either broke
someone
the law
going on to social media and advocating violence in the wake of a shooting. That's not a red flag or anything. Okay.
It does not
You're not much of a
advocate
gun
violence
control
in the wake
guy,
of a
I guess.
shooting.
Yeah, apparently not. So your point is that Republicans, I guess this is your point, are advocating violence, and you're proving this by holding up a poster from 5 years ago. And because they are, you say now Democrats should? Like, what is your point? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that Democrats have to be more aggressive in the face of political issues, in the face of the opposition. We have members of people, one of the persons who was on that field who spoke about how terrifying it was,
what does that mean?
Was Senator Rand Paul. Senator Rand Paul retweeted something from Andrew Napolitano that said the reason we have a Second Amendment is not so people could hunt deer, it's so that they could shoot at a tyrannical government.
So what's your point? That he deserved it?
Tucker, is very simply, no, absolutely not. But my point is that when you put up obstacles to people voting, when you secretly plot in the Senate to repeal health care that's keeping 50,000 Americans alive, and you're otherwise erecting barriers to the democratic process where we have elections where the people that get the most votes don't win,
that you should be shot?
What happens is, no, but that is tyrannical government. That's the
point. It's understandable
when
you're shot?
It's the natural culmination.
Stop with the talking points. Just get to what you're saying. I want to know what you're saying. Are you saying it's understandable when someone might shoot you if you do that? It's the natural culmination
of the argument that was made by Judge Napolitano and Senator Paul Rand. If Senator Paul Rand would like to sit down and have an hour, Rand Paul, if he would like to sit down and have an hour-long discussion,
no, but hold on.
I'd be willing to show up and talk about it.
Okay.
My point is that enough is enough.
What is your point?
My point is enough is
enough.
And so, if it's worked
so it's
for
time
the
to take up arms?
No, it is not about taking up arms. It is about coming together and fighting back.
Fighting back how?
Politically, peacefully.
Then what is this about hunting and cheer? You know what? You're an unbalanced person, and I have to say it's distressing that more Democrats haven't disavowed you.
Well,
I hope
you know what?
will.
I'm a perfectly balanced person.
You don't seem it. Twitter isn't the only place where people have been politicized.